Good afternoon, everyone. We are the Group 9 reporters and we will be reporting about identity and culture together with my co-reporter, Miss Balbin.
What is identity? Identity is a reflected self-conception or self-image that we each derive from our family, gender, cultural, ethnic, and individual socialization process. Cultural identity. Shared system of symbolic, verbal, or nonverbal behavior meaningful to a group. And these are 8 selective social identities. First, racial identity. Second, gender identity. Third, regional identity. Fourth, personal identity. Fifth, ethnic identity. Sixth, national identity. 7, organizational identity. And last, cyber fantasy identity.
So those are 8 selected social identities and I will be discussing that one by one. So first is the racial identity. Race is a social construct arising from efforts to categorize people into different groups. So racial identity, it talks about how your parents raise you that drives you from who you are today. So second is the ethnic identity. Ethnicity is derived from a sense of shared heritage, history, traditions, values, similar behavior, area of origin. So ethnic identity, for example, if you are belong to a indigenous people, so that is an example of an ethnic group. Next is the gender identity. Gender refers to how a particular culture differentiates masculine, feminine, social roles. So, gender identity, it talks about how men and women being separated from a society and how 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 they act in a society. Next is the national identity. Refers to your nationality. So national identity refers to where you from. So for example, if you are living in a Philippine country. So next is the regional identity. Small divisions of geographic area. Small division of geographic area. So regional identity, if you are belong to a Visayan region or Tagalog region, so that is an regional identity. Next is the organizational identity. In collectivistic cultures, organizational affiliation is often more important. Last one is a cyber or fantasy identity. The internet provides an opportunity to escape constraints of everyday identities. So, it talks about how you are from a society and how you are from a social an online world. So it is cyber or fantasy identity. So you are making your new identity. So that's it. And my assigned topic is language and pop culture. So language, it is the mean of communication, primary vehicle of communication through language. And we establish and maintain the relationship and we transmit our culture and we categorize the world. And also language separates us from other species of animals and the single human trait makes us unique from animals and we cannot be human without a language. So there are the three main function of language. So the first is cultural perspective. It is primary means of preserving the culture and medium of transmitting the culture of the new generations. And the second, it helps establish and preserve community by linking individuals into communities of shared identity. And the last is societal level. It is important to all aspects of human interaction because it often related to the political goals. So, culture. The culture is the characteristic shared by the community and distinguished by other communities, learned by the other people and different community. Culture, it is the characteristic shared by the community. It is distinguished by other communication, distinguished by other communities, learned by the other people, and different communities have some common of different characteristics. And in culture, we mostly include eminent characteristics that exist rare in the others. So the relationship between language and culture. The language, it is a structure that determines the way the language that a speaker of that language view the language of the world. And the culture is it is reflected in language. Cultural requirement do not determine structure of language but influence how it used. So the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, it is the two American linguists. So the first is Edward Sapir. So and the second American is Benjamin Whorf. So Sapir, 1929, human beings do not live in the society alone because language of the society predispose certain choices of interpretation about and how we view the world. And Whorf, 1930s, we dissect nature along lines laid down by our nature languages. We categorize objects in the scheme laid by the language, and if we do not subscribe to this classification, we cannot talk or we cannot communicate. So the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis consists of two associated principles. The first is ipos. The first is
Okay.
so the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis consists of two associated principles. So the first is linguistic determinism. So linguistic determinism is the language may determine of thinking patterns and the way we view and think about the world. So linguistic determinism is also called a strong determines. So the second is the linguistic relativity. So linguistic relativity, speakers of different language perceive the world differently, and the language influence in thinking and linguistic difference between cultures and associated with cultural difference in thinking, and the viewpoints vary from language to language. And the structure that and the structure doesn't determine the view, but it is still extremely influential in predisposing speakers of a language towards adopting a particular world view. And the different language represent different ways of thinking about the world around us. And that would be all my topic